All right, so Sadie, you confirmed that FBI Deputy Director Dan Bongino is considering leaving the agency after clashing with Attorney General Pam Bondi. It was over her decision to not release additional material about the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. And it's despite Bongino previously amplifying conspiracy theories about deep state bureaucrats covering up Epstein's crimes. But can you explain what's driving this rift at the DOJ and Bondi's about-face over releasing new Epstein documents?
Well, Bongino and FBI Director Kash Patel feel like Bondi mishandled this entire thing from the start by overpromising and under-delivering, by intimating that she had the so-called client list on her desk and then backtracking on that. And then sort of, they're also upset because throughout this process, she sort of put the blame on the FBI and like forced the FBI to.
You know what it kind of seems like when you as soon as you slow everything down, you start taking a look at what they're giving us, what they've been giving us, like what's going on. It kind of seems like Bondi was completely out of the loop, completely out of her league. Maybe not out of her league, but very much out of the loop. She had no idea what these things were about. She knew that it was a hot topic and to talk about them and say, yeah, you know, like in her mind, she probably thought this is a regular case that was prosecuted. And sure, we can give out this information. Like, what's the big deal? You know, like these guys on the screen now, like they were living, breathing, eating this shit for years, right? Bongino made a pretty lucrative career off of talking about this stuff, and Pam Bondi just, you know, she didn't know what the hell it was about, so she was just out there saying, yeah, you know, we're gonna release this, blah blah blah, not realizing that first of all they don't have it, right? Let's be quite honest. If it's the CIA or Mossad or whatever, you know, fill in the gap as far as like whatever intel community has this, they don't have it, and they never will have it, right? Because that's the way the game is played, right? As disgusting as this is, think of whatever you think. What ended up happening was this was a blackmail operation that was utilized, and the stuff can't get out there because then all the deals that were made through this now fall apart, right? So whoever, all these super, super high, and I'm talking about powerful. I'm not talking about celebrity and wealthy. I'm talking about powerful. It's a huge difference. Most of these people, you don't even know who they are, right? They just run shit. They get the stuff done. They run the world. And they're compromised. And they were okay with that because, you know, you pay to play. They wanted something, they got it as much as they wanted, you know, and then, you know, Mossad or CIA had the carrot to dangle in front of them whenever they needed them to do a little something. Nothing crazy. I'm sure they you know, you can't strong arm these guys because again, they are powerful, right? So even, I'm sure, you know, there are plenty of countries where even pedophilia or whatever isn't even frowned upon. You know, that's still a thing out there for those of you guys who don't realize that. So it's not like you can really strong arm the world with a ring like this, but you can get a lot of people. You can become very influential with running a campaign like this. Let's see what else they got to say. But if you can, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Helps me out a lot. Small channel. We're growing. We're doing good. Drop down in the comments. I'll answer any comment that you throw at me.
To go back into its holdings and see what else it had. And so she directed Patel to put, you know, hundreds of agents on this, pull them off from other duties, to pour over these files, only to have it be that they weren't going to release any more information anyway. And so they think that she has mishandled it from the start. She is upset because she is accusing them of leaking negative stories to conservative media. And so it's really an incredible situation because on the one hand, you have Bongino, who has basically all of Trump's base as his support, and Bondi does not have that support. But at the same time, you also have Trump support for Bondi. So it's anybody's guess what's going to happen next.
Yeah, and then you have hundreds of people who are deployed to look into this, digging. And I guess my question, Peter, to you is, and it's one that has been suggested, is there something that is being hidden? Is there any way of knowing what would be in these Epstein files? Look, we played a video that is out there, and the president has admitted in the past knowing and being friendly with Jeffrey Epstein. So you have all sorts of conspiracy folks saying, well, maybe there's something about the president to hide. You know, we're not implying that, but is there something in there that someone doesn't want to get out?
Well,
It's really interesting how they're so careful now, right? With all the lawsuits that he's lobbied against them, against all the media apparatuses, you know, he's been winning. I mean, everyone says, oh, 16 million here, a couple million there, whatever, no big deal. Listen, say what you want. They're starting to tread a little bit lighter, right? Like, a few years ago, they would have let that accusation hang in the air and not given two shits about it. Now, they're a little bit more careful. But to say, is there something being hidden? Come on.
this is one of these fascinating conspiracy theories that has adherents on the right and on the left, right? The ones on the right think there's some sort of a conspiracy among the Clintons and the Biden administration for hiding it and all that kind of thing. And then on the left, you're right, there are people saying, it's Trump who's holding back. There must be something there.
Yeah, I don't know people on the right that are saying it's the Clintons and yeah, no, like we don't know. Right? The people that don't want us to know that they're on the list, we don't know they're on the list. We don't know who they are. Right? It's even beyond that. Right? Like the Clintons would be probably like the bottom of the barrel when it comes to something like this, when it comes to a massive campaign. You're talking about like let's play this out. Play a little thought experiment. Let's say it's Mossad. Now, they delivered and started a company that facilitated pagers that went to all of their enemies and sat at their hips for years to then be exploded. Think about that. Think about the apparatus that they would take to do something like that. You're talking about you're making corporations, you're making you're subcontracting out people to deliver these things, to manufacture them, to implant these explosives on them, to then facilitate them and the logistics behind it, right? You're getting them to the people. Then you have to get the contract with the terrorist organization to then distribute them. And then you hang on to them for a while and then you blow them up, right? So you have an organization that's capable of doing something like that. Now, I mean, we can get into the CIA as far as like what they can do, but this would take hours, right? But just that's a little tidbit of what they're capable of doing, right? So something like this, where it's just it's like honeypot 101, right? You get a guy in a compromising position with a girl. You snap a picture. Listen, you're not going to do anything crazy, but if ever I need a favor, just play nice with me because I got a little something on you, right? And again, you're not strong arm. It's not total blackmail, right? It's just leverage. It's a little bit of leverage. And for you to think that that's not exactly what was going on here is insane. And I get the fact that we can't be released. Why? Because they probably don't even have the goods. They don't have it. The people that are the head of the FBI, and it just goes to show you the level and the depths of the swamp, right? The deep state. Think about that. You have the head of the FBI. They can't release this stuff. Probably because he doesn't have it, doesn't have access to it, right? He's been given an empty file and saying that's what it is. Good luck.
This is what happens when conspiracy theorists suddenly go into government, right? It's a whole lot easier to be on a podcast, talking about various theories that may or may not be based on any kind of facts and stirring people up. And then actually going into government where you have the responsibility to uphold laws and to actually deal with facts and information as it exists rather than as you might imagine that it exists, right? But what's fascinating about this fight, too, is not just, this is the conspiracy theorists, playing with fire and getting burned. What's also fascinating is the internal dynamics of this. In the first Trump term, what you had were, relatively conventional Republicans, conventional conservatives fighting with the more MAGA conservatives. Here, it's MAGA versus MAGA, right? There are no real conventional Republicans left, or very few anyway, in government under this Trump term. And instead, you have the Kash Patel, Dan Bongino part of the MAGA world, and the Pam Bondi part of the MAGA world. Right now, she doesn't seem to have the support, as Sadie just said, of the hardcore Trump base. But she comes from that same part of the party. And to see them fighting tells you how different this administration is compared to the previous term.
Yeah, she's just not with it. She's not in that echelon. She's not in that group, right? The important thing about the podcasting bros or whatever you want to call them, is that they have to have the pulse of the base, right? They have to. They can feel it. It's in their chats, right? They're getting emails. They're getting letters. They're getting notifications. Their friends are talking about it, right? They can actually feel what the people are talking about, right? It's like a living, breathing version of X, being one of those guys, you know. And Bondi was not part of that world, you know. I mean, she was MAGA. She is MAGA. But she wasn't part of that world and didn't realize the gravity. I don't think she understood what she was dealing with or getting herself into when it comes to the Epstein stuff.
Yeah. And Sadie, we're going to add some names here because you've reported on the right-wing influencers, a who's who list, essentially. That includes Megyn Kelly, Laura Loomer, Glenn Beck, Candace Owens. That's just a few of them. They're accusing the administration of a cover-up. And then take a listen to what Steve Bannon had to say about the Epstein case this week.
They have to go and demand, they have to go to the court and demand and unseal the sealed evidence in Epstein. It starts there. Then bundle everything together you got, sealed and unsealed, and release it all. Or, which I called for yesterday, he should appoint a special prosecutor, special counsel now for the 2020 election and everything after that, and include Russiagate and all this.
So here you have, to Peter's point earlier, you've got both sides here. The same figures who once accused deep state bureaucrats in previous administrations of hiding the Epstein files, they are now implicating Trump officials in a cover-up. What are they saying about the administration shutting down the case? And explain why Epstein is so important to the conspiracy-leaning far right.
Well, this is a conspiracy that has loomed large for years surrounding Jeffrey Epstein. And the issue seems to be this suggestion that the government has been covering up information, in particular, this so-called client list, which folks on the right believe would show names of powerful Democrats having been.
No, they don't care about who they are, right? They don't care about being powerful Democrats. That just goes to show you the like how moronic like that person is. Like, it's not about Democrats, right? It's about people that, like I said, you don't even know who they are. You don't know their names. You've never heard of them before, but they're on there. And I've said in previous videos, when it comes to like the actual honeypot and stuff like that, I really don't care. Like, I really don't care if it's a guy that's with, you know, whatever, a prostitute or whatever, and he's paying to play, and they get him on some blackmail stuff. I don't think we should, you know, like, nuke the entire world over something like that. Now, if it's minors, that's a different story. I think that all stuff that needs to come out, right? But if like your stereotypical honeypot is, you know a guy like goes out and hires prostitutes or whatever, and you get an undercover to do it, or you pay one to do it, and then you get pictures of it. Boom, you got him. Yeah, you collaborate a folder, and then when he gets into office or when he's in a position of power, someone slides him an envelope showing him the photographs, and they say, listen, I'm not asking you for much yet. We probably never will. But one day, might need something. Just, you know, work with us is how it usually would go down.
Been part of Epstein's, sex trafficking crimes, but no evidence had ever surfaced of such a list existed, and that was borne out by this very thorough FBI investigation. Much of the material that the agents looked at as part of this review had been part of Ghislaine Maxwell, that's Jeffrey Epstein's co-defendant, part of her criminal case. So it had been stuff that they had been poring over for years. They already were familiar with it. At no point in there did they, was there any indication to the people who looked through this material that there was a client list, but they kept pushing, the right kept pushing these unproven claims, and now they are sort of paying the consequences for that.
The unproven claims, like Ghislaine Maxwell is in prison for what now? So, I mean, it's not that it's unproven. It's there. It's just hasn't been presented.
So, Sadie, you have Dan Bongino aside, who's threatening to potentially, leave his position. Is anyone going to lose their job over this?
It is really hard to say. The White House is not happy about this situation because it is a narrative that they have not been able to control. It is a news cycle that has gotten out of hand for them, no matter how you play it. But we know that Trump has shown a trend in this term of keeping people around. We know that he has been very close with Pam Bondi for years, and she's been a very close ally of his well before this debacle. So it is really an open question of what's going to happen next. I think from all accounts, Bongino is angry, and so is Kash Patel. So it's just anyone's guess what happens next.
You know, I think about what you just said about his relationship with Pam Bondi, and I'm wondering why he didn't choose her first to be Attorney General, why he went with Matt Gaetz at the very beginning. But that's just a question I'm asking, which doesn't need an answer at this point. This is, Peter, one of the first times that President Trump has faced public criticism from some of the most loyal members of his base. How's he reacting to it?
He didn't like this at all, obviously. This is something that really bothers him. He tried to shut it down during a public appearance this week when somebody dared to ask him about it. He chastised them for a reporter or whoever it was in the press pool who asked him about it. He said, can't believe you're even asking about that. Why are you still talking about that?
Yeah, that was obviously a frustration move from Trump, right? Trump is looking to move on from this. Trump is looking to turn the corner, and it's pretty obvious. Like, it's obvious to me that he got the call. Right? Someone sat down with him. They gave him a little bit that they can. And they said, look, this can't come out. Let's squash it. And I don't think he thought it was going to be that difficult to do. I think he was going to, she gave the influencers a couple of binders. Everybody was cool, this and that. Everything was going to be fine. There've been a lot. Can't say there've been mistakes just because, there've definitely been mistakes, but I don't think they understood what they were dealing with. I don't think they still understand what they're dealing with. Right? You have people that this is like their lives is trying to figure this shit out, and that's not where they are. They got a lot of other things going on at the same time. But a total mishandle. It would have just been better just to sit everybody down and say, look, we're just going to stop talking about this. We can't release it. We're not going to say there's nothing there. We're just going to say it's an ongoing investigation. There's a lot of information. It's going to take time, and just write it out. Right. What they did now, they were trying to nip it in the bud. I don't know if they're trying to nip it in the bud before the midterms. I don't know whatever the notion was behind the complete and utter just shutting down of the closing of this book. I don't know who thought of this or who came up with this idea, but it was not a good idea. But yeah, that's a little bit of what the left is saying right now. That came out a few hours ago, so I like to respond to things as they come out. Thanks a lot, guys, for coming out. Please give me a like, give me a share, give me a subscribe. Subscribe to the channel, helps me out. Comment down below. Follow me on X at 6283talk on X. You can inbox me there, talk to me wherever. Thanks a lot, guys. See you in the next video. Later.